Hi, I'm Jeremy Wellman. I'm your audio video manager here at Sweetfish. We know that setting up audio equipment can be like putting together IKEA furniture, so I'm going to walk you through your podcast setup.
So throw on your Crocs, open your box, and let's get started. First up is the ATR 2100 by Technica. If you cut the tab at the top, you'll be able to unfold the box and take everything out to do a quick inventory. I recommend laying everything on a flat surface so nothing gets lost and you can view everything plainly. Here's a list of everything you'll find in the box so you can pause it here and do a checklist or consult your instructions, and we can talk about the difference between the USB cables later. Next up, the Licks over-the-ear professional headphones. These come in a handy-dandy box with a list of everything inside on the back. Now, in order to get into them, you'll have to deal with these interesting tabs on the side. The best way to do it is to push down in the middle while you pull up on the sides. And Bob's your uncle, you're in like Flynn. The little tab on the side is held together by a magnet. The best way to get into it is to turn it up on its side. Don't go too far, it needs to be sitting on its side. Then just pull that tab and the box opens up, no problem. Now, just like before, I'm going to have you take everything out of the box so we can do a little inventory. Pay particular attention to how things come out of and go into these little compartments, including small elastic bands like this that hold the headphones in. And start taking everything out of the cable bag as well so we can look at the options that we have there. And just as before, here's a little checklist so you can see that you have everything. You can just pause the video here and then continue on whenever you're ready. Go ahead and remove the 3.5mm jack cables from the plastic. When you compare them, you'll notice that they're pretty much exactly the same thing. On one end, you might notice the adapter that changes the 3.5mm jack to a 6.35mm jack. The thread on each of these cables will show you where the adapter goes. And when you take off the adapter, they look exactly the same. The only difference you'll find is that one of them has that cool accordion feature like those awesome old school telephones. And if you have an input that requires the 6.35mm jack, you can just screw it back on there and plug it into the larger input. Now for the headphones themselves. Now these jokers are cool. They contour to your head and they turn in a lot of different directions to make it more comfortable. But when you first remove them from the box, there's a temptation to bend them a little too far and you could break them. So when you take it out of the box, have a look at the two hinges that are there. This will allow you to first open it and then twist it back on itself. Open it, twist it back on itself. Open, twist it back on itself. It'll also indicate the left and the right ears so there's no confusion. You might also notice that these headphones don't have a cord coming from them like most of them that you've seen, so that's what this is for. So you need to check the sides and locate the one that has the input on it, because it is on one side and not the other. Then you're going to find those handy dandy cords we talked about earlier and find the one without the threads on it. Not this one, this one. Now, once you've managed to line up these arrows, you're probably going to try and cram it in there, but it won't work. It requires a 1/4 inch turn counterclockwise and then back in order to secure the line so that it can't be pulled out. Once you've had a chance to try out the microphone input and have mastered that, you can pack everything up and try the next piece, the shock mount. This is what we'll install on your boom arm in order to hold the microphone. And in a typical unboxing fashion, you'll have to remove the tab in order to open the box. Then as usual, take everything out and make sure you have what you need. The cool part is there's only two pieces. The actual shock mount itself and the wind guard you're going to put on your microphone once everything's set up. But in the meantime, you're going to want to check out the claw that holds the microphone in place. And then also play around with the knob on the side that you can tighten and untighten to allow the microphone to move. Give the wind guard a little squeezy, and then we can move on to James's office. In addition to getting to see what a podcast setup might look like, we can take a closer look at the boom arm and the shock mount that you're going to put your microphone in once it's all set up. The boom arm attaches to a table that should accommodate most table sizes. Definitely let us know if your table is too large. You can see that clockwise and counterclockwise motions tighten and untighten the clamp so you can get it tied up against the table. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Just make sure it's snug to support the entire weight. And if you ever need to remove it, just reverse the process. And once you've tightened the clamp, it should be as simple as inserting the boom stand and then you're ready to make your adjustments. The boom stand itself is spring-loaded, which means it should be pretty easy to move it up and down, left and right, which should allow you to put it into a place where you can speak into it while comfortably seated or standing. If it doesn't move where it needs to go, then you might need to reposition the clamp in order to accommodate for that reach. And if you're interested in hiding the USB or XLR cables that run to the microphone, there's a small plastic tab that can be pulled out on each section of the boom stand that will allow you to run the cable inside the boom arm itself. It should be fairly easy to remove and then pops back on by applying just a little bit of pressure. Now, before we worry about attaching the microphone and the shock mount to the boom arm, we need to test your microphone using the USB cables and the stand we got in your kit. Grab those USB cables we mentioned before. You have a USB 2.0 to USB-C, which plugs into the end of your microphone, and a USB-C to USB-C. You'll need to determine whether your computer takes the USB 2.0 or 3.0 or the USB-C in order to connect the microphone to the computer. We also have this XLR cable, so if you have some sort of digital audio interface or other box, you can connect via that cable as well. My computer still takes the more common USB 2.0 input, so I'm going to use the USB-C to USB 2.0 cord in order to connect the microphone to my computer. Plug in the micro USB-C cord using the small port on the bottom of the microphone, and then when you plug in the USB 2.0 to your computer, the blue light should illuminate on the microphone. Another important feature is that on and off switch. You're going to want to make sure it's switched on if you want sound, and then you can turn it off whenever you don't want it to transmit anything. In order to test the microphone's input, you'll need to access the system preferences on a Mac or the system settings or similar on a Linux, Windows, or Chrome-based PC. I have a Mac, so I'll access my sound panel through my system preferences, and it'll show me the different inputs I have available. Make sure you've chosen the Input tab in order to correctly connect to the microphone. Otherwise, you're not going to get any sound. And you may notice that my microphone has no sound because I forgot to switch it on. But once I switched it on, you're going to see that input level bounce, and you can check it that way. You'll also notice that it's very similar on other platforms like Zoom or online conferences. You simply access the preferences and select the proper input in order to use the microphone. Selecting the microphone from the drop-down menu will allow you to test the level inside the platform as well. It's also a good chance to check out the volume knob on the bottom of the mic. Pressing it left and right will allow you to see it toggle on your screen, and you know that it's changing the volume up and down. Deselecting the automatically adjust computer volume will allow you to adjust the input for the microphone manually, but it's usually unnecessary because the computer does a pretty good job of balancing this. But if you like that added element of control, now you know how to get it. And finally, the last piece is the shock mount. If you flip it over, you'll see the screw threads that match the screw threads that are already on your boom arm. Also, if you've hidden that cable, now is a good time to push it out of the way. Just match the screw threads up and start turning it clockwise in order to get it on there all the way. Once you have that on nice and snug, the screw at the top will allow you to move the microphone. Loosen it in order to allow it to articulate up and down, left and right. And then you can tighten it down once you have the microphone and the shock mount in the position that you want it. And if you've managed to score one of those cool microphone flags, now is the time to put it on. Just run the cable through it and then slide it over the boom arm screw threads before you try and put the shock mount on. The shock mount goes on the exact same way, we just have to be a little more diligent about matching those threads before we start trying to screw it on. And the last step is inserting the microphone. That little clip that I showed you before is what's going to hold the microphone in place. Just squeeze open the clip, slide the microphone in, and you're ready to go. Don't forget to add your wind guard, check for articulation on the microphone, and be sure to plug in your data cable back into the mic so it's actually connected to your computer. Flipping it around to your face means you're ready to start podcasting.
Thanks for watching. We hope this video was supremely helpful. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to your producer or hit me up at jeremy@sweetfishmedia.com and we'll figure something out for you.